Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. This is News Hour. My name is Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home is targeted in a drone attack from Lebanon. His office says Netanyahu is safe, no casualties either. G7 defense ministers begin talks in Naples, a NATO base, amid escalating tensions in West Asia and as Ukraine braces for another winter in war. President Vladimir Putin says Russia wants lasting peace in Ukraine, appreciates Prime Minister Modi's concern over the Ukraine crisis. And in the US presidential campaign, Trump questions Harris's mental smartness for the job, and the former President Obama weighs in, calling Trump older and loonier. A drone was launched towards the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home in the northern Israeli town of Caesarea as Hezbollah launched strikes on Israel from Lebanon. Netanyahu's spokesman said that the Prime Minister and his wife were not in the vicinity and there were no casualties. Earlier, the Israeli military said that a drone had launched from Lebanon and hit a building. Two more drones that crossed into Israeli territory were intercepted. Now, Hezbollah has said that it had fired rockets at a military base near Haifa in northern Israel. The city remained on high alert, warning of more rocket launches from Lebanon. The Israeli army has said that 55 rockets were launched from Lebanon since the Saturday morning towards Haifa and other northern Israeli cities. Some rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome of the air defense system in Israel, and others fell in open areas. Earlier, Hezbollah said that it was moving to a new phase of the war. It's an escalating phase of the war, is what they said, in conflict with Israel after the killing of the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Lebanon has said that two people were killed in an Israeli strike in the country's Jonia city in the first attack on the area since Hezbollah and Israel started trading fire last year. The strike happened on the highway connecting Beirut to the country's north. Jonia is located in one of Lebanon's most vital connectivity routes. Israel ramped up its strikes on Lebanon late last month. And DD India's Akshay Dongre is following these stories for us. He joins us now live. Akshay, so, drone warfare seems to be the order of the day. How do Israel's adversaries fare in terms of drone warfare?
Well, if we talk about drones, Mark, then perhaps Israel is the most advanced country in the world. We are talking about non-conventional warfare that was, in fact, that also included drone warfare. And now, if you look at the kind of drones that Israel has made, it is second only to perhaps the United States of America and China. And in fact, it can compete with China as well when it comes to quality over quantity. So you look at Heron drones or other kind of UAVs that Israel has made. In fact, India also is importing drones from the United States of America, but they are almost identical to the drones that we also use that are of the Israeli origin. And in fact, the Made in India drone that we have also built this time around in Hyderabad, they also have a lot of technologies that have come from Israel. So this is an attack, perhaps a provocation, or it can also be part of sort of a psychological warfare that we're looking at, Mark, because this strike directly at the residence of the Prime Minister of Israel has proven that if Hezbollah wants, they also have the capability of targeting high value areas of Israel, especially when it comes to the personal residences or official residences that involve the government officials, especially at the top level, also at the military level as well. That is the psychological aspect of it. But yes, this is a strike that has proved that Hezbollah also has certain technology. There were also speculations that Hezbollah is trying to procure more Russian tech when it comes to drone warfare, or from Turkey, that also has some of the most advanced drones in the world. When you look at the kind of drones that they have been building, they have also been used in the Russia-Ukraine war. So
Yes.
Hezbollah has been trying to procure all that, but when it comes to drone warfare, if Israel wants to retaliate, it can be massive using the technology that it has.
Indeed, you say it's psychological, Akshay, but you know, there seems to be a clear escalation in the grade of weapons being used in this particular conflict. Is there growing pressure, you know, to work out some ceasefire soon by all parties concerned? Because, I mean, if it continues to rise up the escalation ladder, then it's just mutual assured destruction.
Well, Mark, we can say that, and also there is another way of looking at it. The technology, the high-grade technology that you're using, that are being now used, they are also being used from Hezbollah side or from Hamas side. Israel always has been using quite high technology when it comes to fighter aircraft. They have used F-35s to strike areas. We have recently seen the USA use one of the world's best aircraft ever built, that is the B-2 Spirit bomber aircraft that it used against the Houthi targets in Yemen. When it comes to the cyber tech, then we have seen pager attacks. They have been one of the most sophisticated attacks. We have seen walkie-talkie attacks. We have seen other kind of bombing that Israel has been doing. They have been doing with the best technology that they have. But now it is, in fact, a retaliatory strike that is using better technology that they are procuring. That is naturally because earlier Israel was fighting Hamas. Now they are fighting Hezbollah, that has support from directly Iran and Lebanon as well. So we are looking at better or more advanced adversaries for Israel, because Israel has always been using the best technology that is available.
Right. There was a feeling that, you know, the war was coming to an end after Sinwar's death, because even Netanyahu said that it's like the day after Hamas, but the first day after. But the point is that clearly Hezbollah is not, doesn't seem to be, you know, down as yet. And we don't know much about what's going to happen with Hamas.
Well, yes and no, Mark. In fact, even in this question, you know, there is another perspective to it. That would be that if war would have ended with the killing of the latest Hamas leader, but Israel had also said that they will continue to keep on hunting Hamas when it comes to the conflict. In fact, United Nations have been asking for a ceasefire. Other countries have been asking for ceasefire. In fact, the US has also made appeals, but it is also Israel that is retaliating to the provocation by Hamas. Both of the parties do not want the conflict to end, it seems, perhaps because both of them have their own ulterior motives. When it comes to Israel, it probably wants to, you know, completely wipe off Hamas from the region, or Hezbollah from southern Lebanon. When it comes to Hamas and the Hezbollah, they also have their own motives of creating further terror when it comes to Israeli civilians. And, you know, that has always been one of the key messaging that Hamas wanted to give. But it remains to be seen that how the conflict will come to an end, because all the other parties, including India, the Indian Prime Minister has also said that diplomacy is the only way, but both the parties, unless they agree to it, I don't think we can see any end to the conflict, even with the killing of the top leadership of Hamas.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Akshay Dongre, for joining us with those inputs. Moving on then to our next story, US President Joe Biden has said that there is a possibility of working towards a ceasefire in Lebanon, but it will be harder in Gaza. Speaking to reporters in Berlin, where he met with the leaders of Germany, France and the United Kingdom, Biden assessed the efforts to end the multi-area conflict in West Asia. And Biden also said that he has an understanding of how and when Israel will respond to the missile attacks by Iran.
There's an opportunity, in my view, and my colleagues agree, that we can probably deal with Israel and Iran in a way that ends the conflict for a while. It ends the conflict. In other words, it stops the back and forth. We think that there's a possibility of working for a ceasefire in Lebanon, and it's going to be harder in Gaza, but we agree that there has to be an outcome. What happens the day after?
Well, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is meeting Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Istanbul on Saturday to discuss West Asia crisis and also the issue of migration. Scholz arrived in Istanbul after meeting U.S. President Joe Biden and leaders of France and Britain in Berlin on Friday. This diplomatic visit aims to find solutions to pressing regional issues. For many years now, Germany has been Turkey's most important trading partner and the largest foreign investor. More than 3 million people with Turkish roots live in Germany. According to Turkish sources, there is a movement in Germany regarding Turkey's desired purchase of the Eurofighter jets. Now, Turkey intends to boost its defense arsenal with 40 Eurofighters. Germany is involved in their production. Moving on, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed gratitude to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his concern over the Ukraine conflict and efforts towards paving way for a solution. And the Prime Minister Modi, had underlined the importance of dialogue and diplomacy, as well as sincere and practical engagement between all stakeholders to achieve an abiding and peaceful resolution to the conflict.
We are thinking about our own military, our own servicemen and our own equipment, and when we spare a thought for our people, we think about how to provide peace and peace by peaceful means inter alia. This is the difference. Our mediation is wanted. We will gladly work with the colleagues. Same refers to our friends. In particular, I mean the Prime Minister Modi. While talking with His Excellency over the phone, each time he raises this matter and expresses his considerations, and we are grateful to him for that.
In an interaction with senior journalists from BRICS countries, President Putin echoed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's stance on BRICS that the grouping is not anti-Western, but rather non-Western.
BRICS never was meant to against anyone. The Indian Prime Minister put it aptly of late. He has said that BRICS is not an anti-Western group, it's just a non-Western group. The BRICS does not counterpose itself to anyone. It is a group of nations that work in concert and have shared values and shared goals of development and take each other's interests.
Well, Russia is hosting the upcoming BRICS summit in Kazan from October 22 to 24. Prime Minister Modi is going to be attending the 16th BRICS summit at the invitation of President Putin. Our next story, the Kremlin said that it welcomes German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's openness to talks with the Russian President Putin, adding that Moscow hasn't yet received any proposals for such talks. Russia's reaction comes after Scholz told lawmakers on the 16th of October in Berlin that he's willing to talk to President Putin about a just peace in Ukraine. Scholz said that no decisions would be made without the input of Ukraine and other Western allies. In recent weeks, German media, they have been reporting an increased openness from Scholz to speak to Putin about an end to the full-scale war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov claimed that President Joe Biden's remarks on U.S.-Russia nuclear arms talks were politically motivated, especially to boost Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Russia and Ukraine carried out a new exchange of prisoners of war on Friday, each side bringing home 95 prisoners in an agreement in which the United Arab Emirates acted as the mediator. Russia's defense ministry said that the returning of the Russian service members, they were undergoing medical checks in Belarus. Now, the Russian military video also showed smiling soldiers boarding buses. The video showed some men wrapped in blue and yellow Ukrainian flags getting off a bus as well after dark and being embraced by loved ones. Ukraine's Parliament Commissioner for Human Rights said that a total of 3,767 prisoners have returned home till now, and the last known prisoner swap involving 103 prisoners from each side took place in September. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Ukraine's foreign minister holds a meeting with his French counterpart in Kiev. The World Trade Organization is to support COP29 in Baku through trade-focused events. And with a 15-meter tsunami wall, the world's biggest nuclear plant is ready to restart.
On Media Scan this weekend, how relevant are these exit polls for our electoral system, and do they serve any purpose at all?
The more and more these exit polls go wrong, the more and more media will have to think of, do we want to spend money broadcasting what these exit polls say?
People who are receiving are citizens, the media, stakeholders and political parties. They have a responsibility to take exit polls with a pinch of salt. And this time there was a problem. The Election Commission was being asked to explain, how can you give such result when exit poll said this? That's terrible.
स्वागत।
Mark Lin. The French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot arrived in Kiev on Saturday to meet the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Spiga. In a joint press conference, Ukraine's Foreign Minister called the involvement of North Korean troops in the Russian invasion of Ukraine a huge escalation.
This is a huge risk of further escalation of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. It's a huge risk as it further intensifies and lets the war outgrow its current limits and territorial borders.
Meanwhile, the French Foreign Minister said that North Korea's support for Russia would bring the conflict into an additional escalation stage.
North Korea's support for the Russian war effort has been known for a long time. It would nevertheless be extremely serious because it would bring the conflict into a new stage, an additional escalation stage.
Defense ministers from the world's 7 leading economies gathered in Italy's Naples on Saturday amid escalating tensions in West Asia and mounting conflict between Russia and Ukraine. On the occasion of the first ever ministerial meeting focused on defense, Italian Defense Minister Guido Corsetto called it an extraordinary moment.
Today marks an extraordinary moment as we are about to commence for the first time the G7 defense meeting. For nearly 50 years, the Group of Seven have gathered to address geopolitical, social, and economic challenges of global importance. But until today, the opportunity to meet in this format and the need to discuss in depth on defense and security matters have never been taken into consideration.
The Italian Defense Minister emphasized that the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the critical situation in West Asia, they highlight a deteriorated security framework.
The brutal Russian aggression in Ukraine and the indeed critical situation in Middle East, combined with the profound instability of sub-Saharan Africa and the increasing tension in the Indo-Pacific region, highlight a deteriorated security framework with forecasts for the near future that cannot be positive.
The World Trade Organization will support and participate in the COP29 summit in Baku in Azerbaijan through various trade-focused events. The WTO, in a statement, said that the Director General will participate in the World Leaders Climate Action Summit on November 12 and 13, as well as several high-level events planned at the COP29 Trade and Investment House and other venues. A dedicated COP29 portal on the WTA website will provide information on the events. Additionally, several publications will also be launched by the Secretariat and partners during COP29. Several parts of central and southern France were still underwater after intense rainfall flooded towns and motorways. The floods were described as the worst ever seen in certain parts of the country. In many areas, authorities are working to pump away water, that's flood water, while schools remain closed. The alert is downgraded to orange as of Friday, indicating that water levels would come down again. And now let's shift focus to the United States. In an unexpected turn of events, on the campaign trail, the former U.S. President Donald Trump and the Vice President Kamala Harris, they have been clashing not over policies, but on each other's health and fitness. So the two political figures, they have taken jabs at each other's well-being, raising questions about their fitness for office.
What started as a typical exchange of policy disagreements has now taken a personal turn between Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump as they battled through the battleground state of Michigan on Friday. Presidential candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris exchanged sharp criticisms over each other's ability to lead the country during visits to Michigan. While Trump was in Detroit, Michigan's largest city, U.S. former president called Vice President Kamala Harris not a smart person and insisted that she is unfit to represent the nation.
Tell me when you've seen me take even a little bit of a risk. Not only am I'm not even tired. I'm really exhilarated. You know why? We're killing her in the polls because the American people don't want her. She didn't pass her bar exam. She's not a smart person. She's not a person that should represent our country. So I just want to let you know that very clearly. Go ahead.
Vice President Kamala Harris swiftly responded, turning the tables on Donald Trump. During an event in Grand Rapids, the heart of more conservative Western Michigan, she mocked Donald Trump for avoiding debates and cancelling interviews, citing his campaign's claim that he's exhausted.
You know, I've been hearing reports that his team at least is saying he's suffering from exhaustion. And that's apparently the excuse for why he's not doing interviews. And of course, he's not doing the CNN town hall. He refuses to do another debate. And, you know, look, being president of the United States is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. And so we really do need to ask if he's exhausted being on the campaign trail. Is he fit to do the job? And I think that's a question that is an open-ended question that he needs to answer.
Supporting Kamala Harris, former U.S. President Barack Obama also campaigned in Tucson on Friday. Questioning former President Donald Trump's age and fitness as an older loonier, Obama also called Trump's 2.5-hour speeches gibberish.
There is also a question of his competence. Have you seen him lately? I mean, he is out there, he's given 2.5-hour speeches, just word salads. You have no idea what he's talking about. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. He held a town hall meeting where he just, let me explain, because I've done a lot of town hall meetings. The point of a town hall meeting is to take questions. He just decided, you know what, I'm going to stop taking questions.
As Trump and Harris continue to spar over their fitness for office, it is now clear that personal health is an issue in the 2024 race that had started with US President Joe Biden pulling out of the race. Both the sides are likely to use this as a weapon in their broader political campaigns ahead of the US elections. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, DD India correspondent Amrit Pal Singh joins us from San Francisco. Amrit, just 3 weeks remain until the US polls, and both candidates are going all out to win over the voters, especially in the battleground states. Makes sense, of the strategies of both candidates as the end game begins.
It is neck and neck in most states, especially the battleground states. The latest polls give Donald Trump a slight edge over Kamala Harris, but if you factor in the margin of error, then this could completely go awry, and it could go either way. So it is, both candidates. That's why are campaigning hard in the battleground states. They were in Michigan. Both candidates were in Michigan on Friday and trying to campaign for themselves, and of course trading personal charges. Kamala Harris raising the question of physical fitness of Donald Trump. She's bound to do that because that's what Trump did to Biden, 81-year-old Biden. Now Trump himself is 78, Kamala turned 60, so she has the age advantage. So she rigged up the issue of him skipping some interviews after there were newspaper reports that he had to skip interviews because he was tired and exhausted. Trump retorted back saying that no, I'm not exhausted at all. I haven't taken rest for 48 days now, and I am exhilarated. So clearly the close contest is the reason why they're trying to campaign hard in these states. Michigan, for example, has 15 votes of the Electoral College, so it could prove significant. That's why we saw the kind of campaigning and wooing the voters. He trying to reach out to the Arab Americans who form a considerable population in Michigan, saying that peace in West Asia or Middle East needs to be brought in fast, accusing the Biden administration of messing it up there. So clearly reaching out to the Arab American voters. In fact, the mayor of Detroit, who's a Muslim mayor, praised Donald Trump for his policies. And so both candidates are doing that, yes.
Well, thanks very much, Amrit. Pretty late at night there. Now, as the race to the White House heats up, the U.S., DD India is on the election trail in the United States. We saw that with Amrit Pal Singh, but Shubhendu Ghosh is also there in New York, and he scans through some of the prominent newspapers and takes us through the developments, the latest on the electoral landscape in the United States.
DD India is on the election trail in the United States. We decided to take a break from work and come to this lovely Central Park, which is at the heart of New York. I'm also carrying these leading newspapers published in New York to understand the manner in which the local media is carrying stories about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Let's begin with the Wall Street Journal. Article analyzes that if Trump were to come back, we'll see a new version in which tariffs are going to be used in a strong manner as a tool for American economy to go forward, also particularly against its competitors. Moving forward, we also take a look at the manner in which Democrats are looking at the swing states. Democrats see Wisconsin as key to strategy. Wall Street Journal says the vice president was leading Wisconsin by just 1 percentage point. So hugely important for them to be working hard, and therefore Kamala Harris decided to be in Wisconsin instead of attending that very high-profile dinner. Let's turn to the next paper. I have with me the New York Post. Now, it is the very important Catholic charity dinner, Al Smith dinner, that Donald Trump attended, and Vice President Kamala Harris decided to skip while she was campaigning in Wisconsin. It says that it turned out to be sort of a triumph for Donald Trump. Trump 78 blasted Harris for being the first presidential candidate to decline the invitation to the event. Mind you, in about 40 years, it has never happened that one of the candidates was absent. The first time Kamala Harris decided that she is not going to be present. She did appear in the form of a recorded message, but that sort of invited more criticism for now than appreciation. So Donald Trump did, it appears, get an edge as far as that very special dinner was concerned. I'm turning to the third newspaper. It's the New York Times. It is talking about how door knocking for Kamala Harris gets high-tech help. Interesting article. Now, instead of candidates and volunteers going on door-to-door knocking and seeking support for Kamala Harris, they're using interesting apps. One such app is the Reach app. If a particular person installs the Reach app, it also then helps the political parties to connect with the contacts of the person. So instead of knocking at every door, you use technology. This one says Donald Trump family relative woo the Arab Americans, talking particularly in the context of the state of Michigan. A significant Arab population, it says. Masad Bilos, Tiffany Trump, who's Donald Trump's daughter, Lebanese American father-in-law, has been trying to sway Arab Americans to Donald J. Trump. Those were some of the highlights of the major newspapers published in New York. We see it's the last few days, the context is getting more and more sharp. The attacks are getting sharper. With all the updates, we'll stay on the track to cover the US elections. For now, send it back to the studio. This is Shubhendu Ghosh with camera person S.J. Shankar in New York for DD India.
Well, still come here on DD India News Hour. India's President Draupadi Murmu offers prayers at the Sri Radhakrishna Mandir in Lilongwe. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attends the National Defence College convocation in New Delhi. And Delhi's air quality returns to very poor levels.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn, and here's a recap of our main stories. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home is targeted by a drone attack from Lebanon. His office says he's safe, no casualties. The G7 defense ministers have begun talks in Naples, that's a NATO base, amid escalating tensions in West Asia as Ukraine also braces for another winter in war. President Putin says that Russia wants lasting peace in Ukraine. He appreciates Prime Minister Modi's concern over Ukraine crisis. Now, following a 12-year pause, Japan's nuclear power program is being revitalized with the restart of the massive Kashiwazaki Kariwa facility. Located on the coast of the Sea of Japan, the world's biggest nuclear plant has undergone major safety upgrades after the 2011 Fukushima disaster. The 1,000-acre nuclear plant, it boasts of multiple safety enhancements, including a 50-foot tsunami wall. And Japan's renewed focus on nuclear power is driven by emission reduction goals and advancement in AI technology. North Korea said on Saturday that it had discovered the remains of a crashed South Korean military drone, suggesting that it was on a propaganda mission in the latest confrontation between the two involving cross-border flying objects. South Korea's government has declined to say if such drones were flown and if they were, whether they were flown by its military or civilians. It said that no comment on the North Korean claim would be to get drawn into a ploy. Tensions between the Koreas have escalated since the North began flying balloons carrying trash across the border to the south in late May, with Seoul responding by restarting loudspeaker propaganda broadcasts which anger Pyongyang. In Japan, a man was arrested for allegedly throwing what appeared to be a Molotov cocktail at the ruling Liberal Party and crashing a van into a concertina barrier near the Prime Minister's office. The arrested accused has been identified as Atsunobu Usudu from the Kawaguchi in Saitama Prefecture near Tokyo. Several containers were found inside the vehicle. Molotov cocktails, they are known to be petrol bombs, which are used to hurl fire, commonly used by rioters. Colombia's cocoa leaf cultivation has surged to its highest level in over 2 decades, according to a new report from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. The report reveals a 10% increase in cocoa leaf cultivation, with over 2.5 lakh hectares under cultivation in 2023. This resulted in a 53% jump in potential cocaine production, that's to 2,644 metric tons. The small-scale cultivation of cocoa leaf is legal for some indigenous communities in Colombia. Some other stories from around the world. An Italian Coast Guard vessel took back migrants from Albania, which they plan to transfer to Italy. And this happened after a court ruling dealt a blow to Rome's plans to house migrants picked up at sea outside the EU. The Australian media reported a possible bomb threat on an Air New Zealand plane that landed in Sydney Airport on Saturday. The flight from Wellington was grounded on the tarmac for an hour. A Salvadoran court on Friday acquitted and released 6 former guerrilla group members. This is after a decade. They were charged with illicit associations and murder during the 1980s civil war. The court ruled that the criminal case had expired. On the last day of a visit to Malawi, India's President Draupadi Murmu visited the Sri Radhakrishna temple in Lilongwe and offered prayers there. Earlier on Friday, the President held a bilateral meeting with her counterpart, Lazarus Chakware. India and Malawi signed 4 MOUs of cooperation in various sectors, including, in fact, these were following the delegation-level talks. The celebrations of 60 years of diplomatic relations between Malawi and India. The Malawi President Chakware also hosted a dinner in honor of President Murmu at the Kamuzu Palace in Lilongwe. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended a convocation ceremony at the National Defence College in New Delhi. He congratulated the office bearers and the officers of the Indian Armed Forces of friendly foreign countries who attended the NDC course. And addressing the ceremony, Rajnath Singh said that with the evolving nature of warfare, technological revolutions and global interconnectivity, it makes academic and strategic learning very critical and necessary for the defense personnel.
The world around us is evolving rapidly, with new security dynamics and challenges emerging ever today. In this fast-changing landscape, where the focus of every nation is to remain ahead of the curve and the future-ready, the role of strategic thinkers like you becomes even more critical.
The sea phase of the Malabar 2024 concluded on October 18 in Visakhapatnam, showcasing advanced maritime exercises involving warships, helicopters and aircraft. Key activities included surface weapon firing, air defense drills and anti-submarine warfare operations. This phase highlighted the commitment of participating nations to enhance collaboration addressing complex maritime security challenges. The event wrapped up with a closing ceremony facilitating valuable exchanges of operational insights and best practices among navies. A thick layer of smog covered Delhi on Saturday morning as the city's air quality has dropped to very poor in several areas, according to data of the Central Pollution Control Board. Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
A hazy morning on Saturday as smog covered the city, with the air quality falling into the very poor category. The air quality index, or the AQI, has dropped to 270 in the national capital and crossed the 400 mark in Anand Vihar area. According to the Central Pollution Control Board, the AQI level is in the very poor range and poses a serious risk, especially to vulnerable groups, increasing the likelihood of respiratory issues with prolonged exposures. Now let's give you an idea on how the AQI level range. It is starting from the 0 to 50, which is in the very good category. Then it is from 51 to 100, it's a satisfactory category. Now from 101 to 200, it's in the moderate category. From 201 to 300, it's in the poor category. And from 300 to 400, it's in a very poor category. Now if we go further, 400 to 500, it is in the severe category. These are the categories through which the AQI level is measured, and that's something that the Central Pollution Control Board keeps in mind. Now, going further, we realize that the meteorologists predict that these conditions will persist in the coming days, with the air quality likely to remain in the very poor category all throughout. Meanwhile, the Yamuna River is covered in thick layer of white foam. Yes, you can see right behind me, raising the health concern, especially as Diwali and the Chhath Puja approaches. The foam contains high level of ammonia and phosphates and can cause respiratory and skin issues. Now, going further, we realize that it's not going to change easily. There is a lot of problem that will come with this kind of persistent exposure to pollution. This foam typically forms when pollutants mix with decaying plant matter, but its presence during the monsoon is unusual. The lack of flood waters to wash away the contaminants is contributing to the problem, alongside stagnant wind that traps pollutants, worsening the situation further in the National Capital Territory. With Prasar Bharati, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
Let's take a look at other stories making the news now. And Jammu and Kashmir's Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha appointed the senior National Conference leader Mubarak Gul as the pro tem Speaker of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. Gul won the Assembly election in the Indian Union Territory from Eidgah constituency of Srinagar. Sky lamp lighting program was organized at Das Ashwamedh Ghat of Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. The lamps were released into the sky to pay tribute to the armed forces personnel who lost their lives in the Kargil War of 1999. Devotees from across the country gathered at the Golden Temple in Amritsar to offer prayers on the occasion of the Prakash Purab of Sri Guru Ramdas, the fourth Sikh Guru. Now, India has increased its grant support for upgrading 9 schools in Sri Lanka's plantation regions, doubling its financial commitment to a total of SLR 600 million. The agreement was formalized on Friday between the High Commissioner Santosh Jha and the Sri Lankan Secretary of Education J.M. Tilaka Jayasundara. And this initiative aims to enhance school infrastructure as part of India's broader development partnership with Sri Lanka, which includes projects focused on education like renovations for schools and e-libraries as well, vocational training centers and smart classrooms. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. New Zealand need 107 runs to win the first test. India all out for 462. Tough luck there. And the US's 4th seed Tommy Paul will take on Stan Wawrinka in the semi-finals of the Stockholm Open.
Today's episode was all about unique ideas that help us adapt to this new world where so much around us is changing.
We are forming communities to practice regenerative farming and learn how to control these problems naturally.
We have invested in a new battery park to stabilize it, and that makes it also easier for us to phase in renewables like wind and sun.
We're developing some AI tools which use imagery in our grow rooms. They can monitor them on a 24-hour basis, and they help us understand the prime time for picking so that we harvest those mushrooms at the perfect time of ripeness.
I have been using Ravichandran's vermicompost and have had good yields. Now I have used it for this 2-acre maize field. I'm planning to use it continuously. So far, the yield is good and the crops are doing well.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. In celebration of music and culture, the Korean Cultural Center in India, in New Delhi, hosted the semi-final of the All India K-pop contest. And the event has emerged as the largest K-pop gathering in the country. In fact, it draws thousands of enthusiastic youngsters eager to dance to the infectious beats of their favorite K-pop tracks. Here's a report.
Cultural Center India in New Delhi organized the semi-final of All India K-pop Contest 2024, marking a milestone as the largest K-pop event in India. Over 1,000 enthusiastic youngsters gathered to dance to the electrifying beats of K-pop music, creating an atmosphere of joy and excitement.
The long-standing friendship between Korea and India is built on mutual respect, shared history, and deep cultural ties. We honor the enduring legacy of the matrimonial alliance between the Indian princess from Ayodhya and the Korean king Kim Soo, as well as the spiritual bonds fostered through Buddhism. Over the centuries, these cultural exchanges have flourished, and today they remain as vibrant as ever. Korea and India, as special strategic partners, are working hand in hand across a broad spectrum.
The two-day event showcased exhilarating K-pop dance and band performances, captivating audiences with their talent and energy. Fans donned vibrant K-pop fashion, celebrating not just the music but also the cultural phenomena surrounding K-drama and K-pop culture.
Namaste. We, Korean Culture Center India, are very happy and proud to host the third edition of Langdae Korea and All India K-pop Contest 2024. We planned this event to deepen the friendship and mutual respect between Korea and India. This year's festival is bigger than ever, with top artists showcasing the best of Korean culture. I hope many fans join us to enjoy and get to experience Korean culture. I would like to appreciate all the Indian friends for showing their love for Korean culture, and I hope this continues in future. Dhanyawad.
This event provided a unique platform for young performers to shine and for K-pop lovers to connect, fostering a growing appreciation for Korean culture in India. The semi-final promises an even more thrilling finale as contestants advance to the next round, keeping the spirit of K-pop alive in the hearts of many. Kriti Vadhera's report for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour, and time now for the sports news. And in sports, Team India has suffered a significant blow. India is all out now for 462 in the second innings, and New Zealand have just 107 runs to get to win the first test in Bengaluru. 1 day left. Rain could be playing spoil sport. But earlier, Rishabh Pant fell short of his century by a whisker, just 1 run short. Pant became the fastest Indian wicketkeeper to reach 2,500 test runs And Sarfraz Khan slammed a century in 110 balls. He smashed 13 fours and 3 sixes. The 26-year-old made his test debut against England in Rajkot earlier this year, and it was a fine century, hit 150 runs. And Narayan Singh now joins us live with an update on this. Narayan, well, I mean, the weather can still work in India's favour. What is the, what does it look like? Is the game still being played right today, or is it it's stumps for the day?
We can say that's an opportunity for the India also in the twilight situation, how they play, how they grab this opportunity, because after taking the second new ball, the way New Zealand bounced back in the match, at one point of time it was looking like that India is in driver's seat when Rishabh Pant and Sarfraz Khan were playing. They were just dominating the match. It was looking like that India will take a handsome lead of around 200, but with the fall of their wickets, especially after the Sarfraz Khan was removed by Tim Saudi, after that India lost 7 wickets for 54 runs. So it was the turning point of the match after the second ball was taken. But right now it's an opportunity for the India in such situation during the twilight time they can take more and more wickets, and just can, if possible, they can restrict the New Zealand side. But all in all, we can say that a fantastic bounce back by the Indian team also, from 46 to a mammoth target of the 400, over 400. It's kudos to the Indian team, because the modern day cricket is all about just attacking, just for the counter attack, the kind of Indian cricketers especially did. But we can say that they also didn't able to capitalize, especially after the way Williams, O'Rourke and the Matt Henry just dismantled the Indian lower order and tail.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Narayan Singh, for joining us with that update. Now, the British long-distance runner Eilish McColgan will participate in the Delhi Half Marathon on Sunday in the national capital. He finished 15th in the 10,000-meter race at the Paris Olympics, representing Britain in 4 Olympics. The 22-year-old, I beg your pardon, the 2022 Commonwealth Games champion talked exclusively to Abhishek Prasad.
We have with us Eilish McColgan, the British long-distance runner and a 4-time Olympian. Eilish, so how are you looking forward to this marathon race, especially with all these competitors?
Yeah, it's my first time here to race Delhi, so I'm just excited to be part of such a popular race within India. I think I was told there's like 30,000 people taking part in the half marathon this weekend. So yeah, really excited to be running around the streets. What an opportunity.
Eilish, what does mental preparation plays a role in your sport, and how do you prepare for that going into something like World Championship and Olympic, where very great athletes come and compete?
Yeah, I mean, a huge part of the sport is definitely the mental strength of it, and I think a lot of people probably get quite nervous. There'll be a lot of people lining up on Sunday very nervous for the race to run a half marathon, but I think the more training that you do, the more you practice, the easier that becomes. So I suppose it just comes with experience, getting used to those nerves and using them as a good thing and a sort of positive feeling. So for me, I've done so many races now that I know how to channel those nerves into a good energy for race day.
And your thoughts on the great Mohammad Farah, who is your British long distance runner?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's retired now, so we've got a lot of young athletes in the waiting. I think he's inspired a lot of people, the next generation's coming through, so he's done a lot for the sport, and yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of youngsters that will be looking up to him and trying to take on some of his titles in the next couple of years.
Okay, so what's your looking forward? What is your next aim from here? You have been 4-time Olympian, so how do you...
After this race, I'll actually take a bit of a holiday, a bit of a break. I've had a really tough 18 months with knee surgery and coming back from injury. So for me, it's really important now to have mentally some time off, refresh, and then I'll build up again, hopefully for a marathon next year. Similar to Joshua, I'd like to try and take on a marathon in 2025. So that would be the big goal for me. Thanks.
That was Eilish McColgan, the British long-distance runner and 4-time Olympian, with cameraman Manmohan, Abhishek Prasad for DD India.
And the three-time Grand Slam champion Stan Wawrinka will take on the US fourth seed Tommy Paul in the semi-final of the Stockholm Open on Saturday. Wawrinka rolled back the years as the 39-year-old ousted the top seed Rublev to reach the semi-finals. Wawrinka is currently ranked 217th in the world, battled past the 7th-ranked Rublev of Russia to notch up his first win over a top 10 player this year. Tommy Paul arrived in the semi-finals after beating Moimir Kisimanovic in a tense tiebreak. And New York City hosted its highly anticipated Comic-Con. This is at the Javits Center in Manhattan. The annual event drew thousands of enthusiastic fans wearing costumes representing their favorite comic book heroes, movie icons and video game characters. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Scanning the QR code, you can download it now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.